Hi everyone, my name is Momina Mela. I am a poet, an artist, a writer, a barista, a pharmacist, an entrepreneur, an assistant, an archivist, and many, many more titles. They don't mean anything. And we'll talk about why they don't mean anything throughout this entire lecture series, because we're talking about the importance of looking at words and language and how they work within the proximity of other words and other languages. So let's start off by talking about etymology. What is etymology? The study of the origin of words and the ways in which their meanings have changed throughout history. The origin of words and the historical development of their meanings. So etymology essentially has nothing to do with the ways in which the spellings or the aesthetics of a word change through time. Etymology is concerned primarily with looking at the context of words, the context of the language that we use on a daily basis. Now, why is etymology more important now than ever? Well, we live in the age of internet. I'm a millennial. I know many people who are millennials and who grew up with internet in their homes in the 90s when they were still very young and have been surveilled practically their whole lives ever since. So I'm gonna read an excerpt of one of Virginia Woolf's recordings. It's an interview recording that was done in 1937. It was only made public through BBC in 1942 after she passed away, after she committed suicide. So I want us to think about why this particular recording, in which Woolf is talking so passionately about words and how free they are and how democratic words are, why was this recording only released after her death, as are many recordings and many publications and many poems and many novels and many songs of dead women, made by dead women, in which other people profit once they've passed away, of course. It's very important for certain literary industries to make sure that that poet in question has passed away before profiting from their talent. And I want us to think about that, because I know I've seen too many poets that I love: Federico Garcia Lorca, Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix, Plath, Anne Sexton. I liked all these people. How come they all died at such a young age? It would have been great to see what else they could have made, what else they could have created in their journey to from motherhood to having a career, to not having a career. What would their work have looked like if society had allowed them to live a little longer? So now I'm going to be presenting Virginia Woolf's monologue. I mean, it's an interview, but it's going to be expressed as a monologue through me. This is the full audio transcript of Virginia Woolf's only surviving interview. Words, English words, are full of echoes, of memories, of associations naturally. They have been out and about on people's lips, in their houses, in the streets, in the fields for so many centuries. And that is one of the chief difficulties in writing them today. That they are so stored with meanings, with memories, that they have contracted so many famous marriages. The splendid word incarnadine, for example. Who can use it without remembering also multitudinous seas? That's a Shakespeare reference. In the old days, of course, when English was a new language, writers could invent new words and use them. Nowadays, it is easy enough to invent new words. They spring to the lips whenever we see a new sight or feel a new sensation. For example, the word fleek did not exist until eyebrows existed. But we cannot use them because the language is old. You cannot use a brand new word in an old language because of the very obvious yet mysterious fact that a word is not a single and separate entity, but part of other words. It is not a word, indeed, until it is part of a sentence. Words belong to each other, although, of course, only a great writer knows that the word incarnadine belongs to multitudinous seas. To combine new words with old words is fatal to the constitution of the sentence. In order to use new words properly, you would have to invent a new language. And that, though no doubt we shall come to it, is not at the moment our business. Our business is to see what we can do with the English language as it is. How can we combine the old words and new words so that they survive, so that they create beauty, so that they tell the truth? That is the question. And the person who could answer that question would deserve whatever crown of glory the world has to offer. Think what it would mean if you could teach, if you could learn the art of writing. Why, every book, every newspaper would tell the truth, would create beauty. But it would appear some obstacle in the way, some hindrance to the teaching of words. For though at this point at least 100 professors are lecturing upon the literature of the past, at least 1,000 critics are reviewing the literature of the present, and hundreds upon hundreds of young men and women are passing examinations in English literature with the utmost credit. Still, do we write better? Do we read better? And wrote for 400 years ago when we were unlectured, uncriticized, untaught? Is our Georgian literature a patch on the Elizabethan? Where then are we to lay the blame? Not on our professors, not on our reviewers, not on our writers, but on words. It is words that are to blame. They are the wildest, freest, most irresponsible, most unteachable of all things. Of course, you can catch them and sort them and place them in alphabetical order in dictionaries, but words do not live in dictionaries. They live in the mind. If you want proof of this, consider how often in moments of emotion, when we most need words, we find none. For example, Momina, I'm so sorry, your sister passed. I have no words. Goodbye. Yet there is the dictionary. There is the dictionary. There at your disposal are some 500,000 words, all in alphabetical order. But can we use them? No, because words do not live in dictionaries. They live in the mind. Look again at the dictionary. There, beyond a doubt, plays more splendid than Antony and Cleopatra. Poems more lovely than the Ode to a Nightingale. Novels beside which Pride and Prejudice or David Copperfield are the crude bunglings of amateurs. It is only a question of finding the right words and putting them in the right order. But we cannot do it because they do not live in dictionaries, they live in the mind. And how do they live in the mind? Variously and strangely, much as human beings live, by ranging hither and thither, by falling in love and mating together. It is true that they are much less bound by ceremony and convention than we are. Royal words mate with commoners. English words marry French words, German words, Indian words, Negro words, if they have a fancy, meaning if they feel like it. Indeed, the less we inquire into the past of our dear Mother English, the better it is for that lady's reputation, for she has gone a roving fair maid. Thus, to lay down any laws for such irreclaimable vagabonds is worse than useless. A few trifling rules of grammar and spelling are all the constraint we can put on them. All we can say about them as we peer at them over the edge of that deep, dark, and only fitfully illuminated cavern in which they live, the mind? All we can say about them is that they seem to like people to think and to feel before they use them, but not to think and to feel about them, but about something different. They are highly sensitive, easily made self-conscious. They do not like to have their purity or their impurity discussed. If you start a society for pure English, they will show their resentment by starting another for impure English, hence the unnatural violence of much modern speech. It is a protest against the Puritans. They are highly democratic too. They believe that one word is as good as another. Uneducated words as good as educated words. Uncultivated words as good as cultivated words. There are no ranks or titles in the society of words. Nor do they like being lifted out on the point of a pen and examined separately. They hang together in sentences and paragraphs, sometimes for whole pages at a time. They hate being useful. They hate making money. They hate being lectured about it in public. In short, they hate anything that stamps them with one meaning or confines them to one attitude, for it is in their nature to change. Perhaps that is their most striking peculiarity, their need for change. It is because the truth they try to catch is many-sided, and they convey it by being themselves many-sided, flashing this way, then that. Thus, they mean one thing to one person, another thing to another person. They are unintelligible to one generation, plain as a pikestaff to the next. And it is because of this complexity that they survive. Perhaps then one reason why we have no great poet, novelist, or critic writing today is that we refuse words their liberty. We pin them down to one meaning, their useful meaning, the meaning which makes us catch the train, the meaning which makes us pass the examination. And when words are pinned down, they fold their wings and die. Finally, and most empathetically, words, like ourselves, in order to live at their ease, need privacy. Undoubtedly, they like us to think and they like us to feel before we use them, but they also like us to pause, to become unconscious. Our unconsciousness is their privacy. Our darkness is their light. That pause was made. That veil of darkness was dropped to tempt words to come together in one of those swift marriages, which are perfect images and create everlasting beauty. But no, nothing of that sort is going to happen tonight. The little wretches are out of temper, disobliging, disobedient, dumb. What is it that they are muttering? Time's up! Silence.